Hi, welcome back to Makeover May. This is Tasha with Latitudes Gallery, and I just wanted to give a quick shout out to all of our military heroes, the veterans and the current military, Palmia, and everyone who is serving our country. We just wanted to take a moment to say thank you. We know that today is important. It's not just a holiday. And so I wanted to take a quick second to also recognize all of our Latitudes family who is military. This is a submission from Amy, and I'm not doing a live rendering because it was pretty simple. We'd already talked about how to work around an object on the wall when we worked on Brian's room with the light switch. And so she's got her little nest switch right here, and so we're going to leave that alone. And what I ended up doing was incorporating his love. He's a Navy diver, and I incorporated his love of the ocean and diving at Anacapa in this beautiful over-under image. And it works really well because you see how the right side of the image lines up with this bookcase, and then it gives just enough breathing room on the left. I would actually switch this plant out and kind of blend it in with the little nest control panel to sort of give a little bit of weight on the left-hand side of it, or even pull this very cool, this vintage helmet. I really love this. Bring that right up here to give it some focus and really set the stage for that scuba diving element. So thank you so much for your entry, Amy. Good luck. Just a reminder that we will be pulling, hi Gail, we will be pulling the winner tomorrow live at noon. That is Pacific time. So go ahead and do the math on that. So I'm going to hide Amy's. Thanks again so much. And let's take a look at Bonnie's room. So right now we're going to work on this mixed use space. And so this can be kind of challenging. Do you see how she's got, actually, let me pull it back to the original. There we go. So Bonnie has this angled wall, and she has a mixed use room. Now, my guess is this might be an entry space, and it might be likely an entryway where someone's going to use this bench to sit down and put on their shoes or take them off or set their purse down, something like that. And this is a different use. This is a short-term seating space versus this cozy chair that I would love to curl up in and read a great book. So you are after my own heart right here, Bonnie. This is my cozy chair, so I love that you've got one too. But she's also working with this angled ceiling, and the angled ceiling it can be kind of challenging. So she's on the right path with this double floating shelf, following that angle. She did pretty well with that. The thing that I would like to see is adding a little bit of breathing room for these shelves. Now, she's kind of in a tough spot because when people sit down, you don't want them to hit their heads, so you can only go so low, which leaves this large space here. And that only allows so much space over the cozy chair to define that space as well. So here are a couple ideas. The first idea is we can move those floating shelves to mimic that angle, the slope of the ceiling, and give it a little bit of breathing room. Now, I usually like a bit of an overlap. It depends on each space how much of an overlap I like, but there's just a little bit more breathing room, and it's following this angle of the ceiling. And then with the space remaining, we're putting a piece of art that's more flush against the wall. So the floating shelves are protruding against the wall much farther than a flat piece of art would. On this piece of art, I am showing a float frame canvas. Now, the reason I like the float frame, let me see if I can drop that off, is do you see how that float frame provides just a tiny bit of definition to the edge of the artwork? And that chocolate float frame ties in beautifully to the floating frames. What's also cool is a float frame has a little gap between the canvas and the frame. It's not as traditional as most framing you're used to seeing. It's very slim on the front, probably no bigger than my thumb, but there's a little tiny gap, like a 1/4 of an inch gap, and you can still see the wrap of the canvas inside there. And actually the depth is more on the sides. That's where the visual weight of that frame is. So when you're moving around the space, which it looks as though she would get to do here, she would have about 1.5 inches on that left side where she would see that nice depth to her artwork. I think it defines it really well. And again, let me show you with and without so you can get an idea of that. And so that's just a little bit of definition on the artwork. What I've also done is provide the same, so this is called a gutter or the breathing room, so to speak. And that is the spacing between the art and this shelf is the same as the spacing between the art and the top shelf. So it's defining the space for the seating. It's centered over that little bench, but it also is giving a little bit more separation to the art on the wall. It's not quite as tight as when we were working right here. So you've got that tight section and the tight section. This sort of gives you a little bit of separation to it. It gives it that flow, which is what you want with that angled ceiling. So let's look at a couple other choices. If we were to just do one big bold piece, you could do that here. You could anchor the whole area with one larger piece. Now, if this were a space that I was working on, I would probably suggest a console table or something here if it was an entryway and if this bench wasn't being used. If that's the case, I might center this over that taller table. So it's going to depend on how you're using the space. Because we're working with two different purposes for seating here, I liked the anchoring and the balance of just one simple piece here. So there is an idea as well. Let's look at the last idea for Bonnie's room. And this would be to do very similar to what Bonnie has already done. Let me turn it off again so you can see it. So this is where we started. And this suggestion just separates those shelves just a tiny bit more to bring that. Do you see, remember how we talked yesterday about that zip zip effect, how your eye moves through the space. And so this zip zip is happening here. The flow of your eye moves up this arm, up to that shelf, up to the other shelf, and continues up the ceiling. Now this picture defines that one section of the space. The shelves define the other section. So you've got one section defined for the small seating nook and one section defined for the little bench space. So I really liked this idea. Bonnie had requested Ventura images, and so these were the two that I liked best. I liked the incorporation of the blue sky with the light, similar to her pillows, the white and the blue, and the green and the chocolate brown. This image has a lot of the colors she already has happening, and it's Ventura for sure. The other idea would be this beautiful Rincon image. I really love the colors of it and the waves and the water, and it really, I think, balanced the space really well because you have the visual weight over here of the shelves, the floating shelves, and they're dark and they're chocolate. And then you've got the trees that are also dark and chocolatey, balanced on the opposite side. So I think it gives it a really nice flow and balance. I'd love to hear what you think. Drop your favorite in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching another live room rendering. You have, 6.5 hours left before Makeover May is done and you cannot submit your room view. So hurry up if you have not submitted your image. Let me hide the other one so I'm not confusing. If you have not submitted your room view, do it now. You've got 6 hours. And if you don't, you're missing out on a chance to win $1,000 in Latitudes artwork. Your choice. It's an amazing offer. You've got great chances to do it. We are pulling a winner at random. Doesn't matter, we're pulling it at random. So you've got just as fair of a shot as everybody else. So get your submission in, go to latitudesgallery.com, search Makeover May, and all the instructions are in there. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you again in a little bit.